What's up, everybody? It's Stephen A. Williams, president and founder of the creditrepairshop.com. And in today's video, we're going to talk about credit card debt, what you can do about credit card debt, and that credit card debt has just reached, as of today, or last night, this is the 1st of May, 2023, if you're watching this, reached $1 trillion or over $1 trillion. You know, it'll just keep going up. But it reached $1 trillion. I drew that out on the board I think I got that right. $1 trillion. We only have, I think, 333 or 340 million Americans. So we got more credit card debt, way more credit card debt than Americans. But before I get started, you're going to want to watch this video if you have credit card debt, because I'm going to tell you how you can get out of credit card debt, but I'm going to also break up these misconceptions that are out there from people that are telling you, you know, you can just do away with it and it can disappear and all of this stuff, or there's no money that exists and all of that stuff. Don't listen to them. Listen to me, because we deal with this stuff all the time, and I'm going to tell you the exact solutions. And it depends on where you're at in your journey with getting out of credit card debt. But before I get started, I want to tell you a quick story, because I think that this can kind of get you focused in, because a lot of times I will make videos and people will only hear what they want to hear. And that brought something to my mind when I was with my grandsons, my 3 grandsons. I have 4 and 1 on the way. But really 2 of them. One of them is too young to really talk. But they wanted these cupcakes. We had a party at our retail store over the weekend, and they always had these cupcakes. And I have the kids going around the store. They're with me the whole day. Their parents are helping my wife, and they're running the store. And there was probably like 300 or 400 people came through. But I had them with me, and they asked for some cupcakes. And I said, after you have lunch, you can have cupcakes. Well, what do children do? They'll just only remember cupcake. They don't remember the word after. They don't remember after lunch. Just remember the cupcakes. This is something that I keep running into when I'm making videos for people, for all of you. Not saying that you're doing this, but people are only hearing what they want to hear. Only hearing what they want to hear. So I'm going to make it clear to you right now, before I get into the video, is that there is no way to make your debt go away. There is no way to force a company to give you a 1099-C to pay off your debt. You cannot make a company take a 1099-C to pay off your credit card debt. None of that stuff is true. I'm not saying it. I'm going to tell you directly how you can potentially get a company to file a 1099-C. So listen to my words. I'm going to show you how you can potentially get a company, any company, not just a credit card provider, any company, to provide you a 1099-C to forgive your debt. But it has nothing to do with you giving them this 1099-C and saying, take this for the money, and you run over to the treasury and get the money out of my secret account. Not talking about that. I hope that I made that clear. So, you know me, when I'm talking about credit, getting out of debt, if it was just about the books and giving you instructions, all of this stuff would be cleared up yesterday. But the reason why it's not cleared up yesterday is because this is what you are going through. You're struggling. You can't sleep. You're fighting with your spouse or fighting with yourself. When I say fighting with yourself, you can't sleep, and you're constantly thinking about what's going on, what's going to happen, what can they do, what about my job? And then when you can't sleep, you go to work and you have an attitude at your job. Even if you don't say nothing, people can see it in you. So you're fighting with yourself. You're leaving reality. Maybe you drink, maybe you do drugs, whatever it is, no matter what it is, if you're not in your mind, and what I mean by in your mind, that means that you haven't taken something to take you out of your mind, then you are leaving reality. I don't have, whatever you do is what you do. I'm just telling you, this is what you're doing. Setting bad examples for your kids or your children. When you struggle financially, the kids do not understand the struggle about money, but they understand the struggle that's within you, because kids will look at you and they will mimic what you do. So if your child is acting out right now, it's not because you're telling them to act out. They are getting the signals, they're getting the vibes from what you are going through, from what you and your spouse are going through. And then they start to do their own action because they don't want you to be fighting and going through stuff. So they think that if they act up, the focus gets on them and you two can come together and just focus on the child. That's what happens. This is what me and my wife went through in the 90s. And I'm telling you, this children will watch you and they will learn, and especially depending on what age they are. And I really say any age until they're out of your house. The way that you manage your finances is the way that they're going to manage their finances. Now, not to say that they won't make bad decisions, because all of us make bad decisions. That's part of growing. But if you're teaching your kid that they can just blow money, that they don't need to save money, they don't need to do anything with money other than just give it to other people, they will take that to heart, and that you will see your child continually coming back to you for help. It will be like they just never grew up. So now, the first step with credit card debt, this is where probably most of you are in this category right here. You're paying your minimums. Maybe you missed some payments, but you're struggling. It's like getting to a peak. Like you don't know what you're going to be able to do because you can barely put groceries on the table. Like things are just very tough. You can't make more income. Maybe you've done some things to try to make more income, like what Dave Ramsey say, go out there and deliver pizzas, so you can barely, you don't even have any time for yourself or your family. And that will affect what's going on. So solution number one, depending on how much credit card debt you have, but I still think that this is a viable solution, is that you should get, if you haven't already done this, you should get deferments for everything that you can get deferments on, and get it for as long as possible to save up money to pay down the credit card debt, to pay off as much debt as possible. You just call up your company, say, I'm going through a hardship. Can I get a deferment? I'm putting a plan of action together. If you want to see my plan, I got all of my car payments. I got my credit cards. I got my personal loans. I got everything. Everything's going to get deferred. And this is my plan. I'm going to pay you, pay these people off of that money in 6 months. I should be good to go, and my debt level, my debt load is going to be a lot lighter. That's the best plan right there. That's the best plan of action that I've seen work for a lot of people. If you're at the beginning, obviously most people are not at that position. They're going to be where even if they got deferments on all of their payments, they're still not making enough money. And that's what one of the hidden problems with spending your money with credit cards and paying for stuff later is, that you find out that if you don't have, that you really maybe don't even have enough income to sustain yourself. And that's like depressing when people find that out, is that they got all of this debt, credit card debt, automobile debt, personal loans, all of this stuff that they're paying on. And they're like, at the end of the month, even if I didn't have that stuff, I wouldn't even have enough money to even make it. So if you find yourself in bucket number one, if you're able to get the deferments and pay down your debt, and you got to put this stuff on paper to see if that plan will work for you, Then if it worked for you, you need to proceed with that plan. If it will not work for you, this is what you would need to do is, number one, you need to submit hardship offers. You're going to need and that what they're going to do and this is when you're just been making the minimum payments. They are not going to talk about any settlements when you've been paying them, just struggling to pay them. They cannot legally even do that. So I want to make it clear right now, if you're making minimum payments on your credit card, you can call them, but they cannot legally take a settlement. They're going to say, we will make some payment arrangements maybe easier for you to afford, or they're going to offer you deferments, and then you're going to need to close that account so you can not use it or do anything, so you can start focusing on paying that card off. They cannot do any of the stuff that people claim that they can do until it charges off. When it charges off, that changes the legal standing of that account, and then all types of things could happen. It could be sold to a debt collector, or they could try to attempt to sue you and collect the money, or they could let it sit there and hope your situation gets better. But nothing can happen until that debt charges off. So understanding where you're at, if you're paying the minimums, you've just been missing some payments, it's not charged off, hardship to see what type of payment arrangements you can make. Maybe they'll lower the payment to something you can afford. If you can afford to do it, they might offer deferment. You can let that payment, if you can afford to do it, let those payments add up, and then at the end of a certain amount of months, you've paid off a certain amount of debt, and then you get back to them and you can make those payments. And then you need to go ahead and close that account. I know you're probably like, well, what about my credit? Well, hey, you've already ruined your credit. You are about to ruin your credit. But if you know that you can financially make it, then you don't have to ruin your credit. But that's understanding where you're at. A lot of people say, I don't want to ruin my credit. Well, you're about to ruin some other stuff. You're about to ruin that, and your credit is not worth nothing unless you have your sanity. Your credit is not worth nothing unless you can sleep at night, keep food on the table, stop fighting with your spouse, kids not acting up. Your credit is not going to be worth nothing unless you are able to go through that stuff too. So stop worrying about all of that, about ruining my credit. If your situation with debt is overwhelming you, you need to deal with the debt, and then you can start working on your credit. The next thing is, if you cannot pay, you have not been paying, you missed 6 months of payments, they're going to charge off that account. When they charge off that account, that's when it can either be sold to a debt collector, or they will maintain it and they will try to hire out a company, a law firm, or they might even have a service that they utilize to try to collect on that debt. At the beginning, if they maintain the debt at the beginning, they're going to try to do payment arrangements because they're going to still try to get all of their money. Now, you would still submit a hardship because you need to let them know what's going on, why this happened. And maybe when they get your hardship, they may say, hey, we're going to forgive this debt. This debt will be submitted to the IRS with a 1099-C total debt forgiveness. That's like the best case scenario. But they can sue you, and something that I'm starting to see more of is that the credit card companies, at first it just used to be Discover, Capital One, and American Express. Now Bank of America, I saw one yesterday with Bank of America. These companies, and Wells Fargo, and another one that I just saw was, I can't remember, one of the bigger like investment type banks. It'll come to my mind in a minute. They are hiring firms, and they're starting to sue directly. They're not selling the debt to debt collectors because what they understand now is they got onto the game of the debt collectors. Debt collectors probably hate that the banks, the credit card companies are looking at doing this, because what they've figured out, and you know, all business is business, and what they figured out is that they looked at companies like Portfolio and Calvary and all of these companies. They've made hundreds of millions of dollars in like a quarter of the year, $100 and something million, or over a year, $100 and something million. And they're like, if they're able to make $100 and something million, and we're the original creditor, and we just hire a company to sue instead of selling this debt for pennies on a dollar, and we have all of the documents, we're going to be able to get most of this money. Like, this is going to be like a cakewalk. Really, the only reason why we were selling the debt is because we just didn't want to deal with it. But now that the debt collectors are giving us the template, now we're going to start holding on to our debt. And that's what I'm starting to see in my office. That's exactly what I'm starting to see in my office. So if you can't pay 6 months of payments that are missed in a row, it's going to charge off. Hardship, you want to keep the communications open. Maybe they'll submit a 1099-C, but they will do that. You cannot force them to do it. You cannot say, I'm going to fill out this 1099-C, and you take that to the Treasury and get your money. It don't even make any sense. You want to know one thing that just came to my mind, why it doesn't even make sense with what these other people are making with this 1099-A on the videos. Okay, so if you can go and pay them with a 1099-C or 1099-A, you're going to go pay them for it. That's what you can use to pay the debt, because the money's in the secret account. But people are also making videos saying that when you go and apply for the credit, that they've already received the money, and all you're doing is just paying back money that you, as the lender, loaned the credit card company to give to you. So if they've done that, then why wouldn't you just have to send them a letter saying you've already been paid? And then why would you have been making payments until you got into trouble? Why would you have been making payments? So you might be saying, okay, well, I didn't know at that time. Now that I've watched a YouTube video, not from me, from other people, saying that I'm only paying back money that I've been borrowing. So why do you got to fill out other forms to go do that? Why wouldn't you just be able to call them up or send them a certified letter and say you've already been paid for it? And why wouldn't they accept that? Because none of that stuff is true. So what they can do is they could sue you, and I'm starting to see original creditors starting to sue. And I'm predicting, now they always had these predictions on CNBC and on the news about the recession and all of that stuff. I'm predicting that by the end of 2023, almost every major credit card company will be suing, and debt collection companies will be going down. That they will be selling less debt to debt collectors, and they will be maintaining their debt, and they will be hiring law firms to sue people to go after them for the debt. And I'll get into another video on why they would do that and why it gives them almost like 100% chance of winning. But there is still a solution, even with that being said, without filing bankruptcy. That's what most people talked about. Okay, so now the last bucket here is settlement. So now one of the number one things that I've learned when it comes to being able to negotiate settlements, it doesn't matter if it's with a debt collector or an original creditor, is that if the line of communication is open, they will more than likely not try to sue you. Because what they're going to do is they're going to send you that, if it's a debt collector, even if it's an original creditor, they're going to send a demand letter. And that demand payment letter, right there, if it's with a debt collector, you already know what to do for my videos. And I'm going to give you a letter at the end of this video on what you can do with that. If it's from a third-party debt collector, you really, if you have the ball in your hand, and all you have to do is run with it, and you got to do the right things, and you can potentially make that debt go away. If it's with the original creditor, then you need to pay attention to them. You may have to read. The crazy thing about it is that because it's going to probably be with an attorney, or it's going to more than likely be with an attorney or a firm that's going to handle it, because the credit card companies cannot act as a debt collection company also. So you're going to have to you're going to have to, not probably, you're going to have to resubmit your hardship, so you can make sure that they don't try to proceed, so you can let them know. Another thing, huge benefit, that if it is with the original creditor, is that everything that you get at that attorney, they have to give that over to their client, the credit card company. A lot of times they won't let you know that. What we've always done with our company is that we just let them know up front, hey, we know that you have to take this over to this information and share it with your client, because you can't make those decisions. Now, the client will usually, the credit card company will usually say, hey, if they try to offer a settlement, they'll give them a number that they're like, if they offer this number, you just take it. You're already paid. You're not getting commission. In most cases, they're not getting commission. So they'll be like, hey, if they offer 75%, take the money. That's what they'll usually have that number already in there, because they don't want them having to call back and forth on that. But when it gets down to where you're offering a lower amount, like 20%, 25%, or even lower than that, number one, they're going to have a hardship. And then you need to let them know that I know that you have to give that information over to your client, and I want to see a letter from your client denying that they don't want to take my settlement offer. That they have to do that. So, but the good thing about it is that if you get that communications open when you're first dealing with them, even with debt collectors, if you know that they're going to have all the information to be able to prove the debt after you've done the appropriate debt validation letters, having that communications open will potentially stop them from going after you, because especially with debt collectors, what they're trying to do is they're trying to gather all the data to see if you're going to be someone that might either maybe file bankruptcy, or if your financial situation. They may even ask for that. Now, they do utilize skip tracing skip tracing software with TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, where they will look at your, what other stuff that you're paying on, what other credit that you have that you're probably still paying on, or if you just totally blew up your credit, your score is down, and they'd be like, hey, this person is more than likely not going to be able to potentially pay this debt. They might just hold off for a while. That's why it could take up to like a year or 2 years before they try to sue you. And then also something to keep in mind is that the closer to that statute of limitations period of time is usually when you will start to see if you have a debt that's close to statute of limitations, that you'll usually see that they will try to attempt to come and sue you, because they know that their time is running out. And you might be saying, well, why didn't they deal with me before this? Why did they wait so long? Is that because they're dealing with other people where the statute of limitations is coming close. You just came in line. So what you should do, regardless of the situation, is that when let's just say that your whole credit stuff is just blown up. You have problems with debt, charge-offs, all this stuff. What you should do is you should start focusing on budgeting and figuring out a way that you can start putting away money to start looking at potentially settling those debts. The ones that are going to be proven, like to give you an example, we just finished with a client, a business owner actually, and he had a whole bunch of medical debt that ended up being debt that he actually owed from the deductibles. But we still made sure with each of those debts that those were not supposed to be paid by the medical provider, and so we did a full validation. And then even with the full validation, we had offered to do settlements. He wanted to see what was the lowest amount that he would be able to get, and he was like amazed. He said he would call them up and they wouldn't even do a settlement on it. And we called up and were able to get a 50% settlement right off the bat. And then we said, well, we'll call you back after we talked to our client, and we got it down to 40%. So he saved, when he looked at it, he actually was able to pay us pay them, and he saved money with just one of the medical bills that he had from his shoulder surgery. So, but not that you got to use us. I'm just telling you that this is what's possible. But I think that you got to get your mind set in the right direction. Stop running and doing stuff that, where it's not going to get you anywhere. If you've been suffering with debt issues for years, then that's the true result that the stuff that you've been looking at, the ideas that maybe came to your mind, the tricks and tactics and stuff that other people talk about on YouTube, that it's not working for you. That it's just not working for you, and that you need to buckle down and you need to really get focused in on a solution. And if you have credit card debt, I just gave you the solution to fix your credit card debt. If you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my two-phase settlement process. Two-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to my website, the3scores.com. Grab your TransUnion, Equifax, Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters. Statute of limitations letter for debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect. And you can check the statute of limitations for your debt by going to my website, thecreditrepairshop.com. Thecreditrepairshop.com. At the bottom, click the blog, type in statute. You'll see the statute of limitations for all 50 states. Column 1 is for regular accounts like automobile loans, any type of installment loan. Column number 4 is for credit card debt. In some states, credit card debt statute of limitation is shorter. In some states, it's only 3 years. If it's past statute of limitations, no debt validation, none of that stuff. You just send them a notification that it's past the legal statute of limitation or quote unquote time barred period for them to be able to legally collect the debt. That means that they cannot sue you. It doesn't matter if it's the original creditor or a third-party debt collector. If your debt is not past legal statute of limitations, then you need to use my cease and desist collection activities letter so you can respond to that payment demand. Now, if it's with the original creditor, that letter will not work because the original creditor is the original creditor. That letter is to use when debt collectors buy your debt. If you're dealing with the original creditor, I already told you what to do. Send them a hardship, speak to them about a hardship so you can start going down that process so you can keep that communications open. And if you're dealing with debt collector, cease and desist collection activities letter that I give you, and if they respond back, they don't answer all your questions, I give you your debt validation letter to go back with and forth with. I do ask for a donation with those, but it's well worth it. You can use it for multiple debt collections, and it will literally save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars if you can stop them. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to the channel. Post your